You really have to take every issue as it comes and decide based on what's best for Airdrie, not what's best for some sort of party policy or ideology.
Everybody, welcome to Season 2 of Airdrie Inside. I am your host, Chris Glass, and I am kicking off the year in fashion with our brand new mayor, Heather Spearman. Mayor Spearman, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Chris.
So you are about 3 months here on the job as mayor.
Mm-hmm.
Is it everything you expected so far?
It's been great. It's been such an honor. Nothing too unexpected so far. I think it's just navigating new waters and finding the skeletons in the closet and going from there.
So you and I really got to know each other 2 elections ago when you were elected as a councillor for the first time.
Yeah.
But before that, what drew you to the public life? What got you to want to serve?
I would say just the passion behind wanting to make change, right? I think, sometimes, especially as someone born and raised in Alberta, I think, I've always been exposed to politics in my life and feeling like an obligation when you have a certain skill set or you have a certain knowledge base. It's sort of your job to use that and try and make the world a better place, even if it's just in your little corner of the world.
Now, how long have you been here in Airdrie?
Since 2007.
Oh, wow. Okay, so you came a year after me. So I beat you by 1 year.
It's not a competition, Chris. Come on.
You've seen the city change so much, and you've seen it grow so much. What has made you such a strong Airdronian, to be part of that change?
Oh, well, gather around, children. The year was 2010, I think, and I could be totally wrong, but actually, when I first moved here, we moved here because we were a young family to be. I was pregnant with our oldest, and we were looking for somewhere to live. We lived in Northwest Calgary, and we knew we wanted to be in the Calgary area. And at the time, there was such a financial advantage to living in Airdrie. A lot of the same builders on the same size lots for somewhat of a discount on the cost at the time. So we moved here because of the cost, which honestly, I know that's a really raw thing to say, but I think a lot of people at the time moved to Airdrie because of the cost difference.
I did.
Yeah.
It was the exact same scenario. I couldn't afford anywhere in Calgary, and I was moving back from Edmonton at the time, and I had to find a place to live. So that was my introduction to Airdrie as well. So I think a lot of people can relate to that story.
So question for you, because my favorite thing is asking people how long they've been in Airdrie and getting them to measure it by like a significant milestone. And so like our colleague Ron Chapman talks about being here before the first, stoplight was ever put in. I tell people I came here when Walmart and Home Depot were being built. Was that the same for you? Well, you were a little bit sooner than me.
Yeah. So a couple of really big Airdrie milestones for me. I was still here when the Safeway Mall was still a mall, but to the tail end of it.
Yes.
Right? Where one day I showed up and it wasn't a mall anymore, and I wasn't really keeping up to things. And I'm looking around going, I'm pretty sure there used to be a mall entrance here, and now there isn't. The other big milestones, since you mentioned Walmart, we had a Walmart, but we didn't have a supercenter. We just had one of those regular old Walmarts. And I remember when that supercenter opened, I'm like, this is amazing. And now you completely take it for granted. And the last Airdrie milestone was the tunnel.
The rat hole.
The rat hole. And what an apt name for what that used to be.
Yes.
It was something to behold. And every time I drive through that, I think of those good old days of that one lane on either side and how small it looked.
I love it.
So what was your milestone? What was your Airdrie milestone? The first?
Yeah, I'll tell you, one of the things I remember with my oldest was in the summer after he was born, I used to take him to the splash park that used to be at the Plainsman.
Okay.
Do you remember that?
No, I do not.
Oh, yeah. So it's right across from ACAL Airdrie Middle School. It's now where that new playground is with the carriage. Anyway, long story short, I used to take him there to splash around and stuff, but I am not convinced that it was the most sanitary thing. And I'm sure there were issues that if I I asked someone who's been at the City of Airdrie for a long time, they could tell me why they ripped it out and replaced it with a playground. But yeah, that's where he cut his splish splash in teeth at the time in the summers.
Now, so you remember the Splash Park, you remember Walmart, and you're here in Airdrie. What was your pre-politics life like? So I know not a lot of people know that side of your story. So
there is no pre-politics life for Heather Spearman. I was born into politics, really. My dad, I wouldn't say I wasn't really born into it, but my dad was always really passionate. My mom told me a story about when she met him. He had sort of a mentor that she met at sort of a university event at the time. And the mentor said, you watch this guy, one day he's going to be prime minister. And he wasn't. He never made it to federal politics. But as a result, when I was growing up in Lethbridge, Alberta, he decided when I was about 4 or 5 years old to run for school board. And he was elected, his first go at it. And the rest is history. So I just remember being really little and helping stick like pamphlets under windshield wipers in the church parking lots during campaign season. So I've been campaigning for as long as I can remember. I've always been passionate about it. It's always been something we talked about at the dinner table. And when I met my husband, and there was an election coming up, I was like, okay, what are you doing? What's your plan? How are you going to get to the voting poll stations? And he's like, I've never voted in my life. And I was like, oh no. So anyway, it was funny. And now he hasn't missed an election.
I remember when my wife became a Canadian citizen, how proud she was to vote for the first time. So I've never missed an election in my life. I've never not voted, but to see that first time voter is pretty cool.
It is super cool. And I think there is such a privilege. It's such a privilege to vote, especially as women, especially, in today's day and age, I think we take for granted the liberty, but also the responsibility we have to get involved in politics. But it means a lot. It means a lot to be able to do it. So there is no pre-politics, Heather, but there's certainly pre-council, Heather, I guess. But yeah.
So tell me about pre-councilor, Heather, first, and then I've got a whole bunch of councilor and mayor questions coming up.
Oh, man. Okay. Yeah. All right. So I've always been super passionate about arts and culture and inclusive spaces. I think, when you think about high schools and GSAs that exist now, I think it was Rick Mercer who said the GSA in my high school was the drama club. And it was for me too. And not that I'm, I'm married and have my kids and stuff like that, but it was always really important to me from a really young age. I was born and raised Christian, but my version of Christianity has always been, how are you making space for other people? How are you making life easier that's what that love is, right? So that's always been a source for me. And when I was in school, in post-secondary, I was super intensely involved in that scene and going to school. And then I got really, really sick and nobody knew what it was. And then eventually we found out that I had Crohn's disease. And so a couple years into that, I get this ask from a doctor who's like, hey, you should go in for this weird ultrasound at the U of C. We're doing some experiments and we want to test on you. And I was like, yeah, anytime you want to test on anything that we don't have a cure for yet, call me, I'll do it.
Right.
And so, yeah, I ended up going in and they found out that I had this super rare liver disease. And so I was told I would have probably about 10 years. I have since surpassed that without any liver transplant or any major chaos. And it's been really good. I actually had a point in time very recently, it was last year, when I was still deciding if I was going to run again or not, because a lot of people were like, are you going to run for mayor? And this was about a year ago. And I was like, I don't know yet. I'm still waiting on some feedback on my health. And what had happened is part of my liver had actually died. And I didn't know. And so I was waiting to get information on why my blood results were all crazy and why I was feeling kind of crappy. And then in the time that I was waiting for those results to come back, my liver had actually healed so well that it had healed right over all of the dead parts. And my hepatologist in Calgary was like, I've never seen this happen so quickly. This is very impressive. You have the healthiest liver I've ever seen. And if I didn't know better, I would assume that you don't have this disease at all. So anyway, all that to say, I have spent the better part of my life, now officially more than half of my life, with certain disabilities. And that has been a huge source for me as to why I serve my community and where I got into making sure that if someone has a barrier, like what can I do to remove it? And so part of that too was when Airdrie had a moms group on Facebook. It was called Airdrie Moms, and it made national news because it was so impactful. Like, I remember it would get like businesses shut down, which was kind of a horror at the time because you're like, oh my gosh, this group of women is getting local businesses like closed or making them super successful. And
Right.
a lot of the positive stuff that came out of there was very much community. And I think a lot of people come to Airdrie to raise a family and realize they have nobody here. And so they're looking to connect with people. And so the Airdrie Moms Group did that. And then one day they decided to shut down. And all these women were like, well, how am I going to connect with other women? And I always joke that Facebook is single-handedly supported by the community of Airdrie because so many people exist on it all the time. And so when that happened, I was like, I think we still need to create this space. And so I created Airdrie Moms Community with a couple of my friends. And I said, like, let's get this up and going again. And let's make sure we have a group for women to come to online, whether it's 3 a.m. or whether it's 3 p.m, whatever it is, let's reach out to each other and connect, if in no other way than at least virtually. And now we have over 10,000 members. So there's different ways, like outside of mayor life, that I've been connecting with my community and trying to advocate for things. It's certainly been an interesting journey. And then beyond that, I've just lived in mostly traditionally male-dominated careers, which has been really fun for me because I certainly have the sense of humor for it.
I do love that when you're in a space like that, that you don't take a step backwards, that you hold your ground all the time. I find that very impressive about you. I'm not somebody who likes to move back either.
Yeah.
So I guess real recognizes real when he sees it.
Yeah,
so it's really cool that you stand your ground.
Hey, we have a good time. We have a good time, Chris.
So then fast forward to running for council.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that was a crazy time
It was a
because
crazy time.
we're in the middle of COVID. Traditional norms of running are out the window, right? You're
Yeah.
not knocking on doors. You're not having big rallies. You're not having get-togethers. In fact, you're not allowed to.
Mm-hmm.
What was that challenge like, and what motivated you to throw your name? What made that the time for Heather to put her name in the hat? Other than having a cool logo ready to go, because that was
Such
like
a cool
right out of
logo.
the gate.
That was ready. I think COVID was hard. It was really hard. And, even in our own household, we had 3 kids on 3 different computers trying to learn. And my husband and I both on our own computers trying to do our jobs while making sure this kid's paying attention to that. And this kid who is at the preschool level is being entertained enough that I can be on this conference call while my husband's on that conference call. And I think, we all went through it in different ways. And for me, being immunocompromised, COVID was terrifying. It was a terrifying time in our home because I really thought that if I got exposed, that was it. And what the thought of my kids growing up without their mom was huge. And at the same time, we were seeing things at a provincial and federal level that were being questioned, being challenged. And I think the hard thing for me was watching specifically just the healthcare system start to disintegrate. And so one night in the basement of my home, I was a glass or 2 of wine in, and I called my dad and I said, Dad, I hate what's going on in our country. I need to change. I need to change it. So I think I'm going to run for politics. I was like, should I run provincially to make change or should I run federally? And he was like, Heather, you would hate that. Don't do it. You would hate it. And I was like, you think I would hate politics? He's like, listen, there's a municipal campaign coming up. That's the next election. Why don't you try your hand at that? See how you like the campaign trail. And if it works out, great. But, don't hold your breath. It's a crazy time. And he was mayor of Lethbridge at the time. So he was in the throes of the monstrosity that was being in municipal government and having to make decisions on closing facilities and the pushback with all that. So yeah, that was it. I was really frustrated with the systems at the time. I wanted to see change, and I finally felt like I had found a community within Airdrie that maybe would support me in doing that. So yeah, we kind of made a little campaign team of 4 of us. We were small but mighty, and yeah, I ended up getting elected, and then there was no turning back.
Yeah. Having recently gone through that experience, that first month of city council, I don't think you can accurately describe how much information is coming at you in such a short period of time.
Yes.
So walk me through what brand new rookie Councillor Spearman is going through.
The blessing and the curse of being the only new elected official was that everybody else already knew what they were doing, which was kind of cool because I just kind of got swept up in that wave. And it was just business as usual for them and me just kind of trying to keep up. So that was cool. But the challenge with that was that it was COVID. So my orientation was all online from my basement on a computer. So I never got the tours of the facilities at first. I was meeting all these faces online, hearing all these things online, and you're just staring at the same background of people and you're trying to remember their names. And it's funny because even now, I'm a few months into the role, and for the first time about 2 weeks ago, I had someone say to me at City Hall, "I'll just come to my desk and we can chat." And I was like, I have no idea where your desk is. Partially because we have a rule at the city that is, council members are not to go past like a certain spot in the building because we're not meant to be connecting with staff in that way. So anyway, I always followed that rule, but I also realized that because of my orientation at the time, I had never actually been past our administrative desks at the front of the building. And so I had to get like a whole tour, and I'm getting another tour of another building I've never been to before. And it's just kind of funny because here I am in year 5 of my political life in Airdrie, and I'm just meeting certain people for the first time and seeing certain spaces for the first time, which is funny. But I loved it. I think I've always subscribed to the idea that I want to be the least intelligent and least capable person in the room. So I often try to surround myself with people that are brilliant. And when I got elected and I had the opportunity to be the new kid on the block and be the least educated and least competent person in the room, it just allowed me to sponge off of everybody. Right. And it was hard, and it was like drinking from a fire hose, as you know. Right. But I was kind of doing it alone. But that's okay. I didn't mind. I had a great time, and it was a great council to work with and a great council to cut my teeth with because everyone was very different, but very passionate and quite patient.
Now, what were you the most proud of in that 4-year stretch? Because it seems like we've been building as a city in the last 8 years to where we really want to be when we grow up. And a lot of that work was done in the last 4 years. So what are some of your highlights from that 4-year term?
There's nothing that I would necessarily take credit for on my own. I think everything that we did was done as a group or done as a team or done with our administrative colleagues. I think the biggest thing that made the biggest difference in the last 4 years was how hard the city of Airdrie got into the role of advocacy. And what I mean by that is that, everybody knows where Airdrie is. They drive past it between their trip to Calgary and Edmonton. But what we really actively pursued was an opportunity to put Airdrie on the map. So now when you go to the legislature, any MLA or minister you run into and most of their support staff, you'll say, "Hey, I'm from Airdrie. Do you know that we're the and they're like, yeah, the fastest growing city in Alberta. We know you're almost 100,000. Yes, we know you're 42% of the new development doors from last year outside of Edmonton and Calgary." Like you're like, good, it's stuck. So I would say the advocacy piece has changed the trajectory of this city. So I'm really grateful for all of the work that this past council did to do that, and the staff along with us that we kind of did that journey with, because now, we're starting to see the fruits of that labor. And it's also made it a lot easier for me to just automatically know how to do it. Right. So things that would have normally taken a couple of years to ask for, like I'm already having some of those conversations now.
Now, fast forward to earlier on this year, or last year, sorry. So at the middle of last year, there was a lot of talk of whether Mayor Brown was going to run or not. As far as I've been an Airdronian, I think I had Mayor Linda Bruce for maybe 2 years, but I still hadn't found my roots in the community. It's always been Mayor Peter Brown here. Yeah. What's it like to hear that he's not running again and now there's this opportunity? What's it like to walk into that situation?
Yeah, good question. It's funny because I kind of was waffling on it, and I was very open with him about what my thoughts were. And I once I'd kind of gotten over the health stuff at the beginning of the year, I was getting a lot of pressure from the community, and I was okay with that. That never bothers me. I appreciate people being honest with their expectations. But I think a lot of folks were saying, hey, like, you should really consider running for mayor. I think you're the right person. Yeah. And it became more and more frequent and more and more frequent. And then anytime I would go to certain public events, people would be like, hey, you're running for mayor, right? And I'm like, listen, I don't know. And I genuinely didn't know. And in the summertime, kind of around June, beginning of July, my husband was like, are you going to run for council again? Like, this has been a lot. And it is. And you're working full time, you're raising little kids. Yeah. It's a lot to have this on your plate. And I don't think anyone on this council truly works part-time. Like, everybody on this council that we have, including yourself, you're working more than full-time in this capacity. And so it was a lot on our family for sure. And the job that I was working too was really high intensity, high demand. I was joking. People were asking me, hey, how was your Christmas season? This was the first holiday season in 15 years that I wasn't in a year end on my computer on Christmas Eve while my family was doing other things. And I remember last year, I was in a bowling alley with my family, sitting on my laptop waiting for a contract to come back. And it came in, and I just remember crying because it was finally done and I could have Christmas Eve with my family. And and that's not even council related, but that's the intensity that I was working in. And some of my days I'd start meetings at 5 a.m. and some of my days, my last meeting of the day would be with an office in Australia at 8 p.m. And then I'm working council in between. So, I think it's hard. And so my husband was like, are you going to run again? Do you think maybe you could consider not running? And I was like, well, I was thinking about just going down to one job, either staying in this role or maybe looking at the mayor thing. And we had a chat with some friends, and the friends were like, oh my gosh, yeah, you have to run for mayor. Yeah. You have to. And Jer, we'll plan this whole announcement. It'll look like this and it'll be like that. And I said, okay, well, give me time. And so my husband was away, and I went to go pick up my kids from summer camp. And I called my dad and I said, hey, Dad, I'm picking up the kids. Let's meet up for dinner. So we meet up, and he sits down, and I said, I have a question for you because I think you're the person who can tell me what to do. And he said, okay, well, what's the question? I said, well, Dad, I think I'm going to run for mayor. I'm really thinking about it. And he was like, Heather, don't do it. and I was like, well, why not? And he's like, well, this is going to be he's like, you're running against an incumbent who's super well loved. And my dad's worked with Peter Brown for a long time as well. They had a good relationship. But he was like, you're going to be running against an incumbent. And he said, the next 4 years in municipal government is going to be really hard. Like, the province is coming out swinging against, municipal politics, and there's going to be big funding cuts. Are you sure you want to do that? And I was like, well, yeah, I kind of feel like it's the right time, but I don't know if I'm going to do it unless, Mayor Brown runs or decides not to run. And I said, but, I do feel it in my gut. And then, I kind of laughed at the fact that he still was like, I don't think you should do it. Just wait 4 years. And I was like, all right, well, I'll think about it. Thanks for your advice. And then a couple weeks later, I took my kids down to see my mom. We were having a little Lethbridge vacation, as I like to do with them, so they can live my childhood. Right. With the wind just blowing in the face. With the wind in your hair. But no, Lethbridge is a super fun place for kids. Shameless plug, Birds of Prey Center, amazing. And Henderson Pool in the summer, amazing. So anyway, we were down in Lethbridge, and my mom and I were chatting, and my mom was very vocal about the fact that she hates politics. Like my whole life, she's like, I hate politics. I want nothing to do with them. But she let my dad do his thing. And anyway, I was saying to her, I was like, Mom, what do you think about this? She's like, yes. She's like, I hate politics, but I love this for you. And I think you should do it. And then she said, and my mom's quite faith-based as well. And she said, I think you just need to give it to God. And I was like, okay. And I got goosebumps like right in that moment. And so, that was kind of close to the end of August, I guess. And then I get this random text a couple days later from Mayor Brown, and I'm in the throes of planning the like Bayside concert with my friends and all that. And I get this text from Mayor Brown, and he says something super cryptic, like, and I won't get into the messages, very lovely, but he said, I'm making an announcement on Tuesday at 9:00. So I'll be on Facebook. If you want to watch, but carve your own path was basically the message. And I thought that was lovely. And I had spoken to him a bunch of times, and I said, I need to know what you're doing. So he had finally made a decision, didn't say what it was going to be. And then, I was so tied up with the concert that weekend that, Tuesday comes around after Labor Day, and I kind of forgot about it. And I was on a little break from work. I had started early that morning. So I was like, I'll just go and get a coffee and check my phone, blah, blah, blah. And so I go to do that, and I'm just scrolling Facebook really quick, and I see Peter's face on live, and I'm like, oh yeah, there's Peter. And then I see the text saying something along the lines of, and for that reason, I will not be running again. And I was like, holy expletive.
Okay, now it's decision time.
Put my stuff down. I ran up to my husband. I was like, Peter's not running again. I got to announce today. And I like text the media right away. And I'm like, hey, I'm going to be at council at this time. Come to City Hall. I'm making an announcement. And I texted a bunch of people, and I said, just be there. Just like be there. And and then we announced. And the rest, as they say, is history.
Well, there's a little part of that that's not totally the rest of history, because there's still a campaign to run, right? You weren't the only one who announced. You were running against a counselor as well, a very popular counselor, and you both had the track record of the last council in your pockets. So what was it like running not against an incumbent, but somebody who was very incumbent-like? I can imagine running a campaign against a sitting mayor is similar to running against a councillor.
Yeah, that's a tough question. I would say it wasn't necessarily running against just an incumbent. Like there was 7, but ultimately 6 candidates running for mayor, and every single one of them brought they brought their A game. So it was incredible to watch. And not so secretly, if there's one thing that is my Super Bowl, it is campaigns, anybody's campaign. Yeah. And it got to the point where I was loving watching so many other people's campaigns that every once in a while I had to go, Heather, you have your own campaign to manage. Stop looking at these. And it got really intense. It got really intense, and by the time we hit,
it was the same on the council side too.
I know
the intensity and the quality of the campaigns that everybody was running.
Yeah,
I think this was probably the best engagement I've seen a civic election have in a long time when it came to the actual campaigns.
I definitely think the level of discourse was certainly elevated in the campaigns. And I think it was the council candidates who really drove that. I mean, all of the mayoral candidates worked very hard. So I'm not saying that they weren't, but it was really the council candidates that came prepared, came researched, had an actual campaign strategy. It was a lot, and it was incredible to watch. Like I loved watching it. I loved watching the campaigns. And I think, just from a mayoral standpoint, that was a very intense 7 weeks. Very intense. It was very emotional, especially around the Thanksgiving time. I was getting all sorts of things. I had to get a lawyer involved on my end, just because things were getting messy. And fortunately, most of the public had no idea. I just said to my team, we're keeping this campaign really clean. We're not getting messy. We're not finger pointing. We're not coming after people. And we're certainly not attacking people. So I'm really proud of the fact that my campaign team and my volunteers really did their very best. And yeah, there's going to be outliers that are going to say things. Some of the people that commented about me, even in a positive way, I didn't know them. But which is a whole thing too. But I mean,
it's a very unique experience.
It's a very unique experience. It's not for everybody. I think had I tried to run for mayor 4 years ago, I don't think I would have had the gumption to do it. But now that I've been through some stuff, now that I've had people come for my personal beliefs, and that was the craziest thing too in this whole thing, is there was sort of this whisper campaign that I had certain political beliefs,
right.
And that if I got elected, I was going to be the downfall of this city because of this and that and the other thing. And I was like, well, it's municipal politics. And I mean, Chris, you know as much as anybody else on council, you can't have extreme beliefs or extreme anything. You really have to take every issue as it comes and decide based on what's best for Airdrie, not what's best for some sort of party policy or ideology. So that was a big one.
I've always said, like, when people have asked my political leanings and that sort of thing, wastewater doesn't have political leanings. Mm-hmm. Water pipes, as we see in Calgary right now, it doesn't care right or left. It cares about getting funded and getting patched and having water flow through it. And at the municipal level, it's so much more important to keep that apolitical lens and focus on those real issues that affect people, as opposed to those macro philosophical kind of ideologies.
Yeah.
So as mayor now, mm-hmm. now that you're in the role, you've been there for 3 months, is it what you expected?
I mean, and then some. It's certainly been busy. When I got elected and when I was thinking about what it would look like when I got elected, I really told myself I was going to give myself the first 2 to 3 months just to figure it out, right? Yeah. I'm as much as I understand how things work, there were some things that I really needed to find information on right away because I have personal goals in my mayorship that I really want to see across the finish line in this first term. So I needed to get into the weeds right away. There were internal meetings that I'd been having with key people to figure out, like, what's the history here? What do we need to know? What do I need to know? So I've really spent the first couple months not only trying to make a cohesive unit of council, because I do think that a collaborative team that allows for mistakes, allows for differences of opinion, but also understands that at the end of the day, we are a united front. Mm-hmm. That was a tone that I wanted to set very early. I think it's really important that even when we have to do the unpopular thing, that we are unpopular together. Especially when you have so many new people on council, because I didn't want any of the new members of council being hung out to dry because of a personal belief. So, when the democratic process takes place and we vote a majority on something, even if I don't agree, I will be there and I will back you up. And that was really what I wanted everyone to feel like they had coming out of that. So I think we've gotten there. Everybody's gotten through their first budget process, a few less hairs and a couple more wrinkles, but we made it through that. I mean, we're still hearing about the budget process online here and there, and that's fair. I mean, it's a hard time. Affordability is a nutty thing right now, but we have a city that needs some amenities and needs some specific services, and it's our job to get that done. And it might mean a little bit of an increase of 9 something a month for the average household in Airdrie, but it's worth it. It's worth it. And we're not being extreme here. So yeah, I gave myself that grace. I feel good about the fact that we've gotten through orientation, gotten through budget, gotten through December as a whole. And now we're in January. We've got big goals ahead of us that we have to set. And then it's just going to be fire for the next, almost 4 years. And then all of a sudden we'll be in campaign season again.
Right. So I know council is meeting in February to discuss strategic priorities as a whole, but you had mentioned that you had some goals that you wanted to accomplish in your first term as mayor. So let's fast forward to 2029. I'm going to be in year, I think, 7 of this podcast, and we're going to have 15 cameras and a budget.
Studio.
Britton will have 17 different producers with him in a studio. But I'm going to ask you the exact same question. What was the highlight of your first term as mayor? So tell me, in 2029, if we could go to the future and look back, what would you be the most proud of?
you can't predict the crises that are going to come.
Right.
So there are going to be things that are going to be unpredictable. If I were to wager a guess, I think one of our biggest challenges is going to be funding. At every other level of government, they are hitting a wall. The geopolitical scene internationally is chaos at best.
Yeah.
So I think we're going to come up against some really critical funding issues. We're going to have to find a way to get through it and get through it in one piece. So at the end of 4 years, I'm certainly hoping that we will have addressed some of the major hiccups that are going to come our way, because they are going to come, but do it in a way that's going to bring balance to this community. And so, even on the campaign trail, it was really critical to me to see economic prosperity for Airdrie. So these next 4 years, I am going to be spending so much energy on finding different and diverse portfolios of investment for Airdrie. We have a lot of people who want to build here, who want to create business here, who want to expand here. But what that looks like is really critical on how we build out our infrastructure and how we build out our community. So at the end of 4 years, I want to look and go, see that business, see that business, see that business, see how your taxes didn't go up into double digits despite everything that just happened around us. That's what I would like to be able to say at the end of 4 years. And ideally, I'd like to say, hey, good thing you don't have to drive to that hospital in Calgary, because this one over here is in its build phase or whatever. So, there's obviously a lot of other infrastructure that we need, a rec facility, more schools, but we definitely need more health services here. So all of those things are ones that I'm hoping to see us turn over in the next 4 years. Obviously we're not going to complete a lot of those things, but having them start and having them underway will be huge.
I wasn't sure if it was you or Councillor Coulson who made the comment that we're living under the trees of seeds that somebody else planted. And it's neat to see some of those seeds being planted now for what the future looks like.
Yeah.
One last question before I let you go. And thank you so much for spending some time with us today. You talked about being a woman in a man's world and a male-dominated world. Looking at this makeup of council right now, four women, 3 men, so a majority tipping that way. What advice do you have to girls and teenagers and young women who are looking to get into politics or looking to break into some of those male-dominated roles?
Well, what a great question. When I decided to take the leap and get into politics officially for myself, there was an organization called Ask Her YYC.
Yep.
And I signed up with them and I did some of their sessions. And there's another one that's more nationally known called Equal Voice. So for women who want to get into politics one way or another, those are 2 epic resources. Whether you want to be a candidate, whether you want to be a campaign manager, whether you want to be someone who's just involved in campaigns and politics, both organizations are very much nonpartisan, which is super cool because it gives you an opportunity to do different things and meet different people. And I remember the year that I did it, I got to meet senators, I got to meet MLAs, ministers, federal ministers. It was incredible. And some of those are relationships I still hold today, just text message away, which I really love. So, if you're a young woman looking to get into politics, just start somewhere, just volunteer, just, and find your people. I think when people are putting you down or shutting down your ideas, you kind of just have to say, thank you. And then you move along, because, you always are the summation of the people that you surround yourself with. And I have been so incredibly fortunate to be surrounded by brilliant people my whole life. Every time I turn around and think of some of the most impactful moments in my time, it's always been because I've been around really wonderful people. So girls, young people, doesn't matter if you're a girl, honestly, at this point in the world, things are so chaotic. It's not just for women, it's whoever wants it. Just surround yourself with incredible people that you want to be like. Just be by them. Go out for a walk with them. Pick their brain, be around them, and just sponge off their brilliance. And the more you do that, the better you get to be as a person, the more connected you get to be as a person. And I think, anytime I've been successful, it's always been because I've been surrounded by
Great people.
Really rad people. Yeah.
Well, all of Airdrie is wishing for your success over the next 4 years, and I'm no different from that. So thank you so much for spending some time with us, and good luck in your first term. And it's going to be a pleasure working with you for the next 4 years.
Thanks, Chris. Likewise.
And thank you for joining us on our season premiere of Airdrie Inside. We're going to be back next week with more great episodes.